Catholic Channel World Cup Report, keeping you up to date on the greatest sporting event in the world. And now, here's your World Cup correspondent, Patrick Lloyd.
Welcome to your Seize the Day World Cup Report. I'm Patrick Lloyd. Each day during the World Cup, we bring you a recap of the previous day's games and a preview and predictions for the upcoming games today. Don't forget, you can catch all the World Cup action on XM236 and Sirius 214. So let's start off with the results from yesterday. The first game yesterday was the Netherlands taking on Slovakia. Now, basically, the best way to sum that up, that game up, was Dutch domination. They really took control of most of the game. Slovakia barely had any chances throughout the whole game. Arjen Robben scored first for the Dutch. It was in the first half. It was a vintage Arjen Robben goal where he came from the right side, cut inside, and got the ball onto his left foot and drove it home. You see Robben do that all the time for his club team Bayern Munich from Germany, and he did it once again for the Dutch side this time, and it was a beautiful goal.
You know, I have a question for you, too, about the Dutch. England, as we saw during the course of the tournament, and especially again in the game against Germany, England is a team that is loaded with superstars, tons and tons of superstars, and yet they just can't seem to get it done. The Dutch, Holland, or the Netherlands, is another team that's loaded with superstars. They've got lots and lots of stars on their side, and yet they can seem to get it done. Why do you think that is? What's the difference between the two clubs, England and Holland?
You know, it's all about team chemistry. If there are guys who, are huge superstars who come together, they're not necessarily going to have a good team chemistry. When you look at France and England, they can't work well together, even though they're huge superstars. But teams like the Dutch and Spain, when they come together as a nation of huge superstars, they just have a good team chemistry. They know how to work the ball well together as a team, so that's really the difference between England and the Dutch.
Well, it certainly showed yesterday. Now, one other thing, too, about Arjen Robben, this was really his first real game back after sustaining an injury just before the World Cup. Tell us about that.
Right, he got injured right before the World Cup. Some people thought that he might not even be able to play in the World Cup. He didn't play in the first two games, and then in the third game, he came on as a substitute, and he started the game yesterday, and he really showed up yesterday big time.
No doubt. And so what was the final in this game, Netherlands then versus Slovakia?
It was 2-1. The Dutch added one more in the second half from Wesley Sneijder, and then Slovakia got a last-second penalty kick, and they made it, so it was 2-1 at the end.
And literally a last-second penalty kick.
Yes, right after the kick was taken, the ref blew the final whistle.
So there you go. They got a kind of a consolation goal in the end. Really, that 2-1 score, though, doesn't even begin to say how the game really went, because as you mentioned at the outset, this really was Dutch domination. They're looking like a very strong side.
Yeah, it was only 2-1. That's a one-goal difference, but really the scoreboard didn't tell the story this time. The Dutch really took control of this game.
And now up next for the Dutch, the winner of yesterday's second game. Tell us about that game.
Yes, it was Brazil versus Chile. Now, Brazil came in as huge favorites to win this game, and that's exactly what they did. They really just dominated Chile. They played the beautiful style of Brazilian football. Juan scored the first goal. It was off of a header from a corner kick, and Luis Fabiano scored 3 minutes later after juking out the goalkeeper, and he finished into the open net. Robinho made it 3 in the second half, and the goal was a classic Brazilian soccer goal where one of the players just took the ball all the way from half field, and he laid it off to Robinho right near the end. He one time finished it right into the side. It was a beautiful goal. It just summed up the whole game for the Brazilians. That was a 3-0 final.
Their fellow South Americans, Chile, really had no shot from the outset, did they?
Oh, no, not at all.
So, Brazil, a big win yesterday. Now, up next is going to be really a classic showdown for these two teams in the quarterfinals.
Yes, Brazil versus Holland. They've got quite a World Cup history. They've met up in 2 previous World Cups, and Brazil has won both of those games, so the Netherlands are definitely looking for revenge in this one.
Boy, I tell you, that's going to be a great game, too. These two could be the two strongest sides in the tournament, and I don't know about you, but I think it's kind of a shame that they have to meet up in the quarterfinals, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think that they are the two best teams in this tournament. It's too bad that they're not in the finals, like you said, but, it'll be good to see them play.
All right, so we've got 2 games on tap for today that are going to determine the last two teams to make it into the final 8.
Yes, the first game is Paraguay versus Japan. Now, both of these teams are really surprising, and they're both looking very strong. Paraguay, once again, a South American team. The South Americans have been doing very well. Chile was the first South American team to get kicked out. Paraguay is looking to not become the second team to get kicked out from South America. I think it's going to be a very evenly matched game. Both of these teams are very evenly matched, in my opinion. I think it's going to be 2-1 Paraguay off of a late goal.
Really?
Yes.
Well, okay, I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. I think that Japan is going to take this game. They really look like a strong side. It should be a very, very good game. My call on this one is going to be a 2-2 draw at the end of regulation, and I think it's going to go into penalty kicks. I'm going to pick Japan in this one, so we're going to differ on this one.
Okay, then.
Well done. All right, and one more game. This, from all appearances anyway, on paper, should be just a fired-up shootout.
Yes, it's Spain versus Portugal, the two next-door neighbors geographically, so they're traditional soccer powerhouses. Spain is ranked 2nd in the world. Portugal's ranked 3rd in the world. This should make for a great game. Some of the best players in the world are on both teams. So I think that Spain's going to come away with the win in this one, 2-1. It's going to be very close, definitely a lot harder than Spain and Portugal's other few games that they've played. But, yeah, I think Spain will win this game.
Isn't it interesting, too, to see in these games, Patrick, how – now, again, we mentioned Spain and Portugal are two offensive powerhouses. They could light up the scoreboard. In fact, Portugal had a 7-0 win earlier in the tournament. But interestingly enough, when Brazil and Portugal met, it turned out to be a 0-0 draw. Could that be the case with this game, too? Could these two offensive powerhouses just kind of play very conservative and wind up not even getting on the board?
Well, they could, but honestly, I don't think it's going to happen. When you consider that Brazil-Portugal game, both of those teams were already pretty much through, so they didn't really have much to play for in the end. So that's why there wasn't a lot of attacking in that game, not many goals, not any goals at all. But I think it's going to be different today. I think there will be goals today.
All right, so the game today is going to determine the last two teams to make it into the final 8. Patrick Lloyd, our World Cup correspondent, with us this morning. Patrick, one more time, give our listeners information on how they can hear all the World Cup coverage on satellite radio.
Sirius 214 and XM 236.
I'll see you in front of the TV, my man.
See you there.
All right, there you go. Patrick Lloyd, our World Cup correspondent, here on Seize the Day.